Well, Merry Christmas. Yes, it's still the Christmas season, and welcome to Coffee to Go, where we center ourselves in the scriptures, seasons, and holy days of the Christian tradition. I'm Karin Peter here with Blake Smith, and we welcome you on the journey. So, like we talked about on Christmas Day, Christmas lasts 12 days, just like the song, and today, December 28th, is Holy Innocents' Day. And that is a day where we work to alleviate suffering and to confront injustice. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. On December 31st is New Year's Eve, and we talked about Hogmanay in Scotland, and so Google that. And January 5th is the last day of the Christmas season, where we take down all of our greens, and Blake, as he told us last week, has the day off. And January 6th is the day of Epiphany, or Three Kings Day, where the Magi, the three wise men, enter the story. So it's an exciting time in the Christmas season. So where are we with Jesus this week? Well, this is not good where we are this week.
Both in reality and in the scripture.
Exactly. So if we want to translate it into our time, kind of to get the feel of where the scripture is this week, we are in a boat full of refugees trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea. We are under fire in Gaza. We are dodging patrols as we cross the border. That's kind of where we are this week. So we'll hear our scripture and talk about that a little bit. Blake?
All right. Well, we're in the Gospel of Matthew this week, and we are in the second chapter, and it is the 13th through the 23rd verse. Now, after they had left, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night, and went to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I have called my son." When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the Magi, he was infuriated, and he sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had learned from the Magi. Then what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled because they are no more. When Herod died, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were seeking the child's life are dead." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was ruling Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And after being warned in a dream, he went away to the district of Galilee. There he made his home in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled. He will be called a Nazarene. So why does this matter? Well, you've kind of already hinted at that because, we are in the midst of it. We are in the throes of it, and it just gets worse, seems like every day. I do want to point one thing out that I've heard people talk about, and hopefully we can in some way disseminate that. So we have God protecting Joseph, Mary, and Jesus by sending them to safety and really companioning with them in the midst of this threat that's going on. And what I hear a lot is, well, why would God save Jesus and not all those other children? I don't really have an answer to that. So I don't think we need to waste a lot of time on it. I don't think that's the intent of this passage. As a matter of fact, I think historically they've found that there's no real proof in the history books of this event actually taking place. So it's in some ways symbolic of just the level of threat that was going on under the reign of Herod.
And these types of things happened all the time, whether or not this one is an accurate depiction. It is a compilation of the kinds of things empire would do when empire is threatened.
Right.
And we can make that correlation today, and we can say, why do some children get separated from their parents when ICE picks them up, and why do others get sanctuary, in the local convenience store, and the store owner protecting them? Why is that happening? I don't know why.
No, absolutely. Which is, and so you've picked up on the second piece, and what I think is really most important about this passage, and that is that power, and in this case, Herod, is threatened. And unspeakable things are done in an effort to preserve that power. I mean, people in power will do what they have to do to stay in power. This is a really gruesome text when you think about that, if you picture it. And I'm a very visual person, so um, but I also, as I think of this, I think about the pictures of the children standing in lines trying to get food and aid in Gaza,
Yeah.
in the midst of famine, just as gruesome. Uh, to focus on the fact that it appears God saves his own to the peril of many others misses the fact that when threatened, those in power resort to violence to create fear and compliance,
Yeah.
get people to just, you know, bow down. And
Yeah.
it is very, I mean, we see it today. So it's not something that we just read in the storybooks and try to imagine. We only need to look at some things that are happening in our nation and in our world today. The act of creating a climate of fear and casting others as less than human, boy, that sounds really familiar as well.
Hmm.
Sacrificing the most vulnerable, those are all aspects of violence. It's not just about murder and slaughter. These are acts of violence against children of God
Yeah.
that take away the humanity and the dignity of others. What is good and what's right and what's compassionate will not go unchallenged by the empires of the world. I mean, they've got to blame something on someone,
Yeah.
or turn the attention or distract from what they're doing. And the way of Jesus, which is about restoring and healing work, is very threatening to power.
Yeah.
And in Jesus' case, it ultimately cost him his life. And he started very early. He started very early.
Well, he started in his infancy, if you want to take that out and say,
Yeah,
what was Jesus about, right? It's that his very presence, the Magi's testimony of him, was threatening to power.
right. Exactly. So, in response to the danger, Joseph does what he's told. He flees with his family across borders to a safer location. So the place where he was with his family, because of the violence that was taking place, was not safe. And he sought safety for his family in another location. I'm saying that very intentionally because
Right.
that is, again, something that we see. He was not a criminal. And when we talk about immigrants and refugees who have to leave their homes and their countries seeking safety for their families, we need to remember that Jesus' family fled their home and became refugees in a foreign nation.
I was I was thinking when you were reading the scripture, and I guess I hadn't thought about this before, but you talked about being a visual person. So
Yeah,
when the angel comes to Joseph in the night and says, "Get up and take the child and Mary and get the heck out of here," imagine the panic.
yeah,
Oh my God, somebody's coming to kill our child. And so the absolute panic of throwing everything you can carry into a bundle and taking it with you. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So that leads us to some questions that we might ponder this week. And the first would be, where do I see power subjugating others, fomenting a climate of fear, fostering hate and violence? And who is the most vulnerable? And then what is my response?
See, that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah,
When you see it happening, what's your response? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Too often we see it happening and we go, well, that's happening in another country. There's, that I'm not part of that, or I can't do anything. It would put my family in danger. I mean, there's lots of things to consider. Another set of questions: how do I view displaced persons who flee from similar circumstances? I mean, this is something we really have to think about daily. Uh, does that perspective change when the refugees end up in my town or my community or my neighborhood?
Mm,
Right? So it's not urgent when it's somebody else's.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
we need to think how that changes for us when it becomes very personal. And should it not be just because it's personal, but it's happening to persons.
This is, I said last week, this is where it gets most critical for me and most uncomfortable when we get to the questions and then how can I
Yes.
experience that this week? This is a really horrible passage. And so I think maybe in response, um, we can we can take a little bit of learning from the Portland folks who dressed up in costumes and danced and tried to make a show of positivity and joy in the face of fear and violence. So we're going to use kindness towards vulnerable persons and groups this week, whether it's kind words or smiles or kind actions. But we're going to do that. We're going to use kindness to counter empire this week, to counter oppressive power this week. So whether it's bringing blankets to homeless shelters or school supplies to elementary schools that have a high refugee or immigrant community, if it's kindly thanking those you come into contact with who work in menial or service jobs, we're going to embody kindness to the vulnerable this week as an act of resistance.
That's great. All calls to action. So the experiences are always tough, but they're a little easier when it's just something I have to reflect on, not something I have to do. Thanks,
Yeah.
Karin.
Well, you had that day off on
Yeah,
Epiphany
right. I
coming,
got the day
so,
off from the green, so I got to put in something. Oh goodness. Well, our blessing today is a song that most of us are probably familiar with, "Auld Lang Syne" by Robert Burns, and I'm going to not read it with a Scottish accent, but try to read it in the way that it was written. And I will say that "Auld Lang Syne" is for times past,
Yes.
remembering. So, with that in mind, should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and Auld Lang Syne? For Auld Lang Syne, my Joe, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. And surely you'll be your pint stop, and surely I'll be mine, and we'll take a cup of kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. We too have run about the braes, and powed the goings fine, but we've wandered many a weary fit, sin Auld Lang Syne. We too have paddled in the burn, frae morning sun till dine, but seas between us braid have roared, sin Auld Lang Syne. And there's a hand, my trusty fear, and guys a hand of thine, and we'll take a right good willy wote for Auld Lang Syne. I think that's a pint of draft, but
Yeah, probably.
well, sometimes you make it like you need that.
Well, it's all part of the cup of kindness. That's what that is. But we're going to
Very
offer resistance, cup of kindness as resistance this week.
All right, let's do it. And thanks everybody for joining us here at Coffee to Go. We invite you to join us next time for the next part of our journey through the liturgical seasons and holy days of the Christian tradition.